You may have heard the term virtual production floating around and seen jaw-dropping effects in TV shows like The Mandalorian. But what does it mean, and how is it changing the game for the world of TV, film, and even live events? Well, we're going to delve into the exciting topic of virtual production, exploring its benefits, challenges, and the potential implications for the future. And if you watch until the end, I'll reveal a little secret. At its heart, virtual production refers to a method of filmmaking that seamlessly integrates live action footage with computer-generated environments in real time. I'm sure most of you will be familiar with chroma key techniques, aka green screen. As you know, actors or presenters perform in front of a green or blue backdrop, and the background is added later in post. This method enables us to place our performers in any setting imaginable, whether on top of a skyscraper or an alien landscape, by keying or masking out anything that is chroma colour. However, it's not without its limitations. For instance, it often requires extensive post-production work to ensure that the lighting and the shadows on the actors match the digitally added background. Now enter the era of LED walls. This is where virtual production takes a leap forward. As you can see, I'm standing in a studio with a vast LED on either side of me. If I take you around the back for a sneaky peek behind the scenes, you can see the walls are made up of lots of individual tiles rather than being just one giant telescreen. And coming back around to the front, you can see that this distant sci-fi planet isn't added later. It's right there behind me, making it much easier for me as very much a non-actor to imagine and react to the world around me. Lighting is also more accurate, as it reflects off virtual environments displayed on the LED walls. And unlike the spill you get up against a green screen, anything around the edges here is reacting to the scene behind rather than leaving a problem to be tweaked out later in post. So, despite a few challenges that we'll discuss in a few minutes, I think LED walls provide greater authenticity and flexibility in most instances, especially in corporate applications when compared to traditional green screens. A perfect example of big budget virtual production in action, and one I've cited repeatedly to my clients over the last couple of years when trying to explain this giant LED wall thing, is the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian. I mean, who doesn't love a bit of Star Wars? Here, a colossal circular LED wall and ceiling was used to alter the environment and lighting to set the scene. The stunning results this production method produces have set a new standard in filmmaking. You simply couldn't have had a shiny costume like that in front of a green screen. It would just reflect and consequently disappear. Now the thing is, it's all very well and good looking at big budget productions like Disney's Mandalorian, but if we dig deeper into the challenges of virtual production, two key issues start to surface. One, moiré, and two, colour reproduction. Let's start by talking about the moiré effect. This is a visual perception that creates a wavy pattern when one set of lines or dots is superimposed on another, and they differ in relative size, angle, or spacing. If you've ever been a presenter on video, I'll bet you've been asked by the producer or director to not wear fine checks or stripes. It's because the camera sensor is made up of millions of tiny pixels, and it doesn't know where to put the pixel of the fine stripe. The same happens when a video camera films against an LED wall full of pixels. The conflict between the grid of pixels on the camera sensor and the grid of pixels on the LED wall can also result in moiré. So understanding this potential challenge is essential, especially when it involves LED walls, which in the main aren't particularly high resolution, despite their scale. Believe it or not, this one actually has fewer pixels top to bottom than a standard HD telly. Each of these squares is only 156 by 156 pixels, and if you come close, you can actually see the gap between the pixels on the wall. Now, the focal length of the lens and the distance the camera is from the wall can all affect whether or not you get this awful moiré pattern. Next, let's talk about colour reproduction. For a colour, let's say a corporate logo that's a solid colour, to go from a computer to being viewed by a viewer on their own monitor as part of a live stream, it has to pass through a number of stages, each of which can potentially, and invariably does, alter its appearance. Come with me to the control room and I can show you better. Let's take my magenta Oculix logo, for example. It begins as a colour I'm familiar with on the computer screen here in the control room, but the LED wall back in the studio might not reproduce this colour of the dark purple background exactly as it appears on the laptop screen here due to differences in screen colour gamuts. That's the range of colours that a device can display or capture, and possibly also the spill of the studio lights on the wall. Then when the camera looks at this colour on the wall, its sensor will probably interpret the colour differently again. Post-production processes like compression for storage or broadcast will undoubtedly alter the colour yet again. And finally, the viewer's monitor will also interpret and display this colour according to its own calibration. At each stage, there's the potential for the colour to be altered slightly, which can be a nightmare for consistency, especially for corporate colours that need to be represented accurately. Most devices are, of course, designed to accurately capture and display a broad range of colours, but sometimes, particularly with some of the more highly saturated ones, they can fall outside of a device's colour gamut, making them harder to represent faithfully. Obviously, a pro camera operator and video tech team like the folks here at PSP's B30 Studios will do everything they can to ensure accurate and consistent results. However, even then, I've seen colours like solid greys rendering as lavender at the viewer end. Another integral part of virtual production is understanding the power of camera position in relation to the use of physical elements. I can show you what I mean by explaining two concepts, the frustum and parallax. Frustum is a term often used in computer graphics and virtual production to represent the part of the 3D world that's visible on the screen. It's a pyramid-like shape. The pointy end is where the camera is, and the base is the farthest plane the camera can see. Frustum is important because as you move the camera, the frustum moves with it. This influences the portion of the 3D scene that's visible in the camera's field of view. Parallax, on the other hand, is the apparent shift in position of an object when viewed from different angles or positions. It's a powerful visual cue for depth perception. This is especially important when incorporating physical elements or props in the foreground to enhance the effect through the camera lens. For example, this lamp in the foreground would appear to move more than the room on the LED background as the camera pans, enhancing the illusion of depth and making the scene look more realistic. To achieve this really effectively, you need computer-controlled camera positions which simultaneously affect the image displayed on the screen. It's pretty complicated and expensive to do it properly, but you can create some simpler effects like these with the same principles to give your environments more depth, which is ultimately the purpose of these treatments. When it comes to in-person live events, these concepts take on a different flavour. The LED wall provides an immersive backdrop, and the frustum now includes the live audience's range of vision, so the bigger the screen, the better. Or I'm thinking maybe use a series of smaller screens around the room, allowing the audience's imagination to fill in the blanks. Parallax can be used creatively here too, by adding physical set elements in front of the LED, up and down the stage, and having presenters move around them. I mean, you could even go as far as to ramp the stage like a funhouse, but I think that's probably taking things a bit too far. But remember, with the viewing angles being so much more varied in a live event compared to a single controlled camera perspective, the challenge will be to design scenes with these multiple viewing angles in mind to ensure a captivating experience for every audience member, no matter where they are seated. Yes, there are challenges to overcome, and yes, at the moment the costs are high, but as LED technology continues to improve and develop, these treatments will become more affordable and accessible. At the most basic level, pretty much anyone with a decent-sized telly can achieve this. How many of you spotted that I was actually not in the studio, but in my living room? Well, virtual production, with its ability to blend the real and virtual worlds, has already changed not just filmmaking, but also corporate live streaming and live events. Lots of organisations turned to these LED wall sets during the pandemic when getting audiences together was still under restrictions. Unfortunately, in most cases we, me included, missed opportunities to explore these methods to their fullest, partly due to inexperience, partly budget, and partly gaining client understanding to appreciate the benefits. The lockdowns might be over for us here in the UK, but clients are still keen to continue in many cases with their live streamed events. It's an exciting time to be in the industry with all the AI evolving around us. And if what you're after are some creative and curious ideas on how to explore the possibilities of AI in corporate live streams, watch this video next.